If I could rewind the clock and sit down with my younger self, maybe my 20-year-old self, or my early 20s, when I thought I knew all there was to life. These 10 lessons that I want to discuss today, that I want to share with you today, are things that I would have loved to hand over to myself as a survival guide. They're not hacks, they're not trends, they're not even things you'll find in a textbook, to be honest with you. They're truths I learned the hard way through setbacks, through wins, through losses, through quiet reflection, and through faith. Essentially, through it all. So, today, in this episode, I want to share these 10 lessons that I wish I would have learned sooner with you. Just a heads up, some of these might challenge you, some of these might just be a reminder, stuff you already knew. But for other people, some of these might be an anchor that you build the next phase of your life on. Anyways, let's get into it. Welcome to the Many Roads Podcast. I'm your host, Oba Okusanya. Excited to have you here. Let's get into it. 10 lessons I wish I would have learned sooner. This past week, it's been an extremely busy week for me, as I'm sure it's been for most people. But I was sort of just reflecting on the last couple of years and, just sort of, I guess, difficult seasons that, I've sort of come out of. And I was sort of like thinking about some of the lessons that I've learned in those seasons. And even much more recently, some of the lessons that I've recently learned. And, I came up with these 10 things, not out of a textbook, not out of a, these are not AI generated. These are straight from my heart through reflection and just sort of looking back at my own story and sort of looking back at pivotal moments in my life. And I think these 10 things that I want to share with you are so valuable and could help you. And for some of you, like I said, this it might just be a reminder, but for some other people, it might be a little sort of nudge in the right direction for the next phase and the next thing that needs to happen in your life rather. So, let's get into it. Number one, a resource in one season could easily become a distraction in the next. A resource in one season can easily become a distraction in the next. There was a time I was essentially trying to become like a career coach on LinkedIn. And it was great because, it helped me understand and discover my love for writing and all these other things. And in that season, that I was looking to do that, and it's something that I still very much enjoy. It's something that I do on the side. I just don't charge people for it, and it's not something I want to get paid for. Let me put it that way. you know, um, so yes, I still do like career coaching on the side and to whoever asks for my help, but it's not something that I want to do like as a coach on the internet and be paid for because it sucks the joy out of it for me. But for other people, it works, right? So no, this is no hate on anybody's coaching gig. It is just what it is. For me, it didn't work for me, right? So in that season that I was looking to sort of go into career coaching, I had followed a bunch of people in that space, and I would, download resources from them and I was on their email list and all these other things. Fast forward a couple of years now where that's not even top of my mind at all. It's not even a direction that I want to go in. And the other day I was thinking about it, about how my email is just full of resources and emails and, my inbox is full of messages from those people and that community, and they're saying, hey, these are 5 ways to improve your coaching strategy. And I'm like, this is all noise. So the fact is that the very thing that was a resource in one season can easily become a distraction in another season, because now that I'm in a season where I'm focused on building business and focused on creating community and focused on a podcast, and this is an exciting season of my life and an exciting season for the Minerals podcast as a whole, right? And we have a newsletter and we have all these other things going on. Coaching doesn't really fit into it right now, so it's like if I was to start paying attention to those things, it would be a significant distraction from what it is that we're currently building. So long and short of it is, a resource in one season can easily be a distraction in another season. So what do? You make sure that in every season you're focused on the thing that you need to be doing for that season. And it's okay to say, you know what, in one season this was really helpful to me. However, in the next season that I'm going to, I gotta cut this off. Right. So whatever that means, whatever that looks like to you, take it, I guess. All right, let's go to number two. Number two, the only way out is through. The only way out is through. So this happened to me. Back I was in Nigeria at the time. I was looking to get into university in Nigeria, and there's an exam that we write for people going into university called JAM. I think it's Joint Admission Matriculation Board is what it's called. It's an exam. It's a multiple choice exam. I think out of 400 is it's usually weighted across, right? And I'm gonna preface the story by saying this: I love my country. We're not perfect. Things are not perfect, but this happens. I'm gonna say it is what it is. You know what I mean? So I was above average in school in terms of academic performance. In fact, in my secondary school, I was for years in my class and the top student. Right, it was me and another guy that would go back and forth. He's Tofumi. Shout out to you wherever you are. Amazing guy, ridiculously brilliant guy. Anyways, so going into that exam, like we had done so many mock exams and stuff, and like on average, I was getting scores close to 300 out of 400. So if I would do terribly, I'd probably be in like the 280s or the 290s. If I did well, it'd be like the 310s or whatever, right? I know. So that was in mock exams. The exam day comes. I go into the exam. I feel really confident. I get in there and the questions are like super easy. At least to me, they were. Like, I was like, oh, this is a walk in the park. I'm like, this is awesome. This is great. Finish the exam off. I remember coming out talking to a couple of my friends, like, oh, yo, I'm so happy. Like, this is a walk in the park. Like, this is great. Fast forward to the results coming out. I got a result of 218 out of 400. Made no sense. Literally made no sense. I remember my dad looking at my result and saying, no, there's no way this can be your result. Because he knew how I did in the mock exams. He knew how I had done in other exams in that season as well. I had done like significantly well. So he's like, something's wrong here. And I told him straight up, I'm like, there's no way that's my result. And shout out to my pops and my mom, because my dad, like, he believed, he's like, you know what? Okay, we're going to look into this. So I remember through one of his other friends, he wrote a letter and, you know, eventually we found out that somebody bought my result and swapped my result with their child's. Essentially, because I got a really high score, they essentially swapped the records so that their child could get a high score. And this was told to us through the unofficial channels, right? There was nothing we could do about it. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, okay, I am the one who studied. I'm the one who slept, like spent sleepless nights, going through my books and practicing and doing all these things. And here I am, and like, there's no proof to show for it. Somebody else took my results. And long story short, eventually God will still come through, and I'll still get into University of Ibadan at the time, right? To study civil engineering, which is what I want to study anyways. But what I'm saying is the only way out is through, in the sense that you won't always have a reason to push forward, but that's the season, that's the moment when you need to push forward. And for me, in that scenario, it was saying, that's not my result. Okay, whatever has happened. There's nothing I can do about it. But I still want to make sure that I try to do what I set out to achieve, which was to enter into university, right? So, and of course, with the help of my parents and community and whatever, that was able to happen, right? But this is advice that cuts through, I guess, whatever it is that you're going through in life. The moment you decide to quit, the moment you decide to cash in the chips, like they say, the moment you decide to say, you know what, I'm done, then the situation has overcome you. Then the situation is, it's done. But if you keep saying, you know what, day after day, like my beautiful and amazing wife says, we just take it day after day. She's like, this day just needs to end and the next one needs to begin. And before you know it, we'll make our way through it. So for anyone listening, watching, the only way out is through. Keep going, keep persevering. You're going to get through it. So you have a business idea you're excited about. But hold on, here's the truth. About 90% of startups fail because they build something nobody wants. What if you could test your idea before you build it? What if you could test your idea before you waste months or thousands of dollars building it? I've put together a free guide called the Reality Check Guide that essentially has 10 validation methods you can use to test any business idea today. In it, you'll find validation methods used by Tesla, Dropbox, Airbnb, and other notable names around the world before they became household names. I've also included AI prompts that you can use to validate or test your ideas using ChatGPT or any other AI platforms. So get access to the free guide. The link is in the description. Download the guide and use it to test your ideas before you go waste money and time. All right, let's get back to the pod. Let's go to number 3. After communication, selling is the number one key to building a successful life. After communication, after the skill of communication, the skill of selling, I personally believe, is the number one key to building a successful life. For a very long time, I used to be afraid of sales. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, I used to be terrified of the pressure that salespeople had on them to make a quota, you know? Like, you have to sell this number of things. You have to sell this number of things to get that bonus, to do this, to do that. But, you know, I was about a year ago or a year and a half ago, I was reading To Sell is Human. I think his name is Daniel Pink. I think that's the name of the author. I might be wrong. But anyways, To Sell is Human. And he was talking about how every human being practices sales on a base level. And you might not realize it, but you are selling. Think about this. When you go to a job interview, you're selling yourself and you're selling the skills that you have and you're selling the network that you bring and you're selling your thought leadership to that company. And in putting that out there and selling that, you're hoping that they buy by hiring you. It's sales. Okay, let's even break this down further. You go on a date. You're talking to this chick. Yada 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 yada. Whoa, what's good, girl? You are selling. You know what I mean? Like you put on the nicest clothes. You smell great. I'm talking from a guy's perspective now. Right? You smell great. You know what I mean? There's some good music going on. It is all sales. That is sales. Essentially, sales is finding the way to meet a need. That's essentially what it is. And presenting that need to somebody in a way that they can say yes to it, in a way that they understand that this is a need I have and and this person can fulfill that need, right? So selling, I personally believe, cuts across through almost every aspect of life. You will find that the people who are great at sales, and I'm not just talking about selling a product, I'm saying selling ideas, selling visions, selling a movement. You know, there's people that you listen to, and all of a sudden you feel so energized. It's also sales because they're selling you a vision, even though you don't fully know what they're talking about, but you just feel like, you know what, I need to support this guy. I need to support this lady. I need to get involved in whatever it is they're doing. It's sales. And every human being should learn how to sell. So, cause guess what? The quality of your life improves as you improve the quality of your sales skills. So read books, watch podcasts, whatever it is. Find a way to improve your sales skills, and not just sales in terms of, oh yeah, I'm a sleazy car salesman. That's not what I'm talking about here. Sales in the sense that, like, you're able to sell your services to people. You're able to sell yourself as a product in the workspace, in the career field. You know, think about it. People who go pitch for, who go ask for a promotion or ask for a raise. That's sales. It's all sales, man. You're telling your boss, you need to buy this, and I have it. And if it's worth it, your boss will buy. It's all sales, man. Sales, it's crazy. But anyways, selling is a ridiculously important skill that everyone needs to develop. All right, let's go into number 4. Who you are is more important than what you do. Have you ever asked anyone around you? Most people, if you just ask them, hey, who are you? Like, I'm Dr. So and so. I'm engineer this. I'm lawyer. Bruh. Society has wired us in such a way where we start to place an emphasis on what we do versus who we are. And one thing I've realized is that what we do can always change. What we do can change from time to time. What we do will change based on different seasons, based on, you know, just based on life. What you do will change. And if you place your identity on what you do, that's a recipe for disaster because there's going to come a time where what you do changes and all of a sudden you start to question who you are and oh like you know what I mean? So who you are cannot be what you do. Who you are rather has to be something deeper, has to be something more ingrained within you because what you do is an external thing. Who you are is much more internal. And if you want to avoid identity issues and identity crisis, and if you want to avoid a lot of people who have self esteem issues, is because they don't really know who they are, right? And, for someone who struggled in the past with that, I can be 100% honest and tell you this that it is absolutely worth it to spend the time to discover who you are. And that's no BS. Like, it's absolutely worth it to spend quality time with yourself to discover who you are. And for some people, what does that look like? That looks like self-reflection. That looks like, sometimes it looks like asking people around you, like, who do you think I am? Sometimes it looks like reviewing different aspects of your lives and of your life and different stories and different points in your life and think about the things that drive you and things that you're passionate about and the things that excite you. For me, I there was a time where I used to think that yeah, I'm an engineer, and then that changed, and yeah, I'm a project manager. So, bro, that cannot be what I place my identity on. What I place my identity on is first and foremost that I'm a child of God. I am a passionate and loving individual who is excited to play a little part in other people's stories, however that happens, right? So, who you are is more important than what you do because what you do can always change, but who you are remains the same. Let's get into the next one. Lesson number 5: consistency is more than half the battle. Whew. Consistency is more than half the battle. A lot of times consistency gets, that okay, let me put it this way. People on the internet talk about consistency and it's like, yeah, for you have to show up, you have to be consistent. And well, I feel like it's talked about in such a way where it's like you have to do the maximum amount of work. Whereas consistency is not just doing the maximum amount of work, it's continuing to do the maximum amount of work or continuing to do the amount of work that you committed to. And the reason why I bring this up is because I used to think in the past that it was either go hard or go home, and then I would burn out. You know what I mean? And there was no real benefit in burning out. Push myself to the edge and then burn out. One thing I've realized is that slow, consistent grind of I'm doing this. If I commit and say I'm doing this every 2 weeks, I'm doing this every 2 weeks. That consistency is much more powerful than the inconsistent maximum effort every now and then. You see people who say if you just go to the gym 5 days a week, 30 minutes a session for the next 3 years, or for the next year, you look absolutely different than somebody who goes this week twice a week, twice that week, and the next month, once that month, and 3 months after, they're not in the gym the entire month, right? So consistency is more than half the battle. And that battle that I'm talking about is the battle of winning in whatever that it is you're doing. If you find a way to be consistent with the effort, no matter how small, you will win. But the effort, of course, will impact the time as well. So, for instance, going back to our gym analogy, if you wanted to see results quicker, you should probably work out 3 to 5 times a week, is what they say, right? As opposed to just working out one time a week, like one day a week, right? You know what I mean? So, volume is important. I'm not underplaying that. But what I'm saying is consistency is not just about going the maximum effort every time, because if you can't keep that up, what's the point? You know what I mean? So, consistency is more than half the battle. You want to win in whatever it is you're doing, be consistent with whatever effort you are willing to commit to for the long term and then execute and then go for it. Let's get to the next one. Lesson number 6: productivity is getting less things done. This one, I had to learn the hard way because I'm one of those guys that I'm one of those people that enjoys being productive and being busy. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. It's like yeah, I have this going on. I have this going. That's not necessarily product. That's not because you have so much going on doesn't necessarily mean you're productive. Productivity is actually about doing the most important things. So productivity is not about, yeah, I have 1,001 things to do and yeah, and I'm balancing all these things. No, you might be busy. Being busy doesn't mean you're productive. Let's just clear that out now. A lot of people are busy, they're not actually productive because what productivity boils down to is results. For instance, if you run a business, right? And there's all these things that you have to do. And you're like, oh, I have so much on my hands. I have to do this. I have to get to this. I have to send this. I have to print this. I have to ship this. You have so much to do. Being productive in that sense isn't about doing all those things. It's about doing the most important things that affect the bottom line. It's about doing the most important things that affect the result at the end of the day. So I like to look at it in this way. If I have a bunch of things to do, I prioritize what to do, and the thing that's most important is what gets done first. And then I work my way down. So that if I don't make my way all through the list, the things that are significant have been worked on and have been done. Right? It took me a long time to learn this because I just thought you just had to finish everything that you set out to do. I never looked at it from the standpoint of different tasks and different activities have different weights to it and have different impacts to it. Right? So productivity isn't always about you doing more. It's actually about you doing less, right? Because when you truly prioritize the things that you're supposed to be doing and the things that really have an impact on the end result, on your life, on your business, you realize they're a little bit less. They're actually less in number than the huge list of things that you think you have to do, right? So that's the one I learned the hard way. Let's get into the next one. All right, number 7. Your state of mind is a choice. I know it sounds crazy. I used to think that like you can't really control your state of mind. Because and let's don't get me wrong, like we're human. Stuff happens, man. Life happens, and like you get some bad news or some discouraging news, and you feel down, and your soul feels it, and you're wondering to yourself, like, man, like how do I get through this? And I mean that's in that moment you're down, and the state of mind that you have in that moment is yeah, like dang, I'm down. But when I say your state of mind is a choice, I mean what you do after that point is a choice. Because life will happen. There's no other way around it. Life will happen. But what we do after life happens is what really determines the kind of lives that we end up living. So if you're someone who when life happens to you, you sit in it, you wallow in it for days and months and years, so much so that it takes the momentum out of other things that you're doing out of life. And don't get me wrong, like I'm a human being, like we have our days, and of course there's varying levels of impact to whatever it is that happens. But that state of mind is something that we get to control. And I wasn't very conscious of this. I wouldn't say I didn't know. I wasn't very conscious of the fact that I have to be intentional about the way my mind switches and getting myself out of a mindset of whatever it is that has happened. For instance, um, a couple of years ago, I was impacted by layoffs, and I won't lie to you, those first couple of days were absolutely brutal because in my head, I was just playing over the scenarios like, what did I do? You know what I mean? Like, performance was great. I just got no bonus. Like, like I thought everything was good. Yes, I did have some run-ins with the manager at the time, but I just thought like she was tweaking, you know what I mean? Right. But to eventually get to a place where that happened, after I had also taken on so much work at the company because another project manager was going through personal issues. I had volunteered and I had taken up most of his projects just to help with his workload. And here I was in the busiest quarter of my time in that company. I was laid off. It didn't make any sense. And I sat in that for, I would say, weeks. And it took a conversation with one of my brothers who was like, hey, no, 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 bro, no, this thing happened. Yes, I understand. I get it, but we're not going to sit in this. You have a future ahead of you. You have a life ahead of you. It's a job like any other one. You will get another one. Let's go. Let's get up. You know what I mean? So that state of mind is a choice. Life will happen. You will be impacted. But what you do after really defines the future, right? So state of mind is a choice. Let's go to the next one. Number 8. The fastest way to build wealth is to spend less than you earn. I know. This is this is what Dave Ramsey has been crying and yelling for years. But unfortunately, it's so simple that most of us don't actually pay attention to it. The fastest way to build wealth is to spend less than you earn. You know, I would say like in my 20s, I wasn't necessarily focused on like saving and investing, at least in my early 20s, you know. But God bless uh AB Capital. You know, we had him on the very first, on the second episode of this podcast. Timmy Abimboye, AB Capital, who's like a big brother to me. God bless him, because I'm talking. This is probably over like 7 years, 8 years ago, was when he told me you need to start saving, you need to start investing. And I remember this because he said, but even if it's $50 every paycheck, put it to the side. You know, and at the time it was mutual funds that he told me to invest in, because that's what the focus was at the time. But I remember seeing the results from just $50 a paycheck and being like, oh, this is how you build wealth. You know what I mean? So, of course, fast forward years and there's different financial vehicles that we use, you know, but the principle is the same. You cannot build wealth if you're spending more than you earn. And unfortunately, the way that this plays out in our society, especially here in North America or in developed countries, is the credit system. A lot of people are in debt. A lot of us are in debt because we've outspent more than we earn. And essentially that has pushed us into debt, right? So there's no point investing if you have debt. Like, Apostle, pay the debt first, too. There's no point you saying, I want to be a crypto pappy, I want to be a crypto millionaire, I want to go and buy Bitcoin, and you have credit card debt of 22%, 25%. Bro, now clear the debt first, because the 5% you make on your investment, the 10% you make on your investment, your 22% is already eating into it. It makes no sense, right? So just food for thought. I should share with you. Free game. Bro, if you have debt, clear the debt. You know, one of the scriptures that has really been ringing in my heart in this season is the scripture that says, uh, a lender, a borrower is always slave to the lender. It's been really ringing on my heart, because I'm like, you know. Anyways, I don't want to go into it, but it's something that that keeps me up, and that keeps me thinking about creative ways to get out of debt. Because for us to build wealth and to build the lives that we really want, we can't do it with debt. Now, debt in business and leveraging debt in the world of enterprise and business, that's a different conversation. I'm talking about in your personal finances, right? In your personal finances, the way to build wealth is to spend less than you earn. All right, let's wrap this up. Let's go into number 9. All right, number 9. There's no greater source of fulfillment than in serving others. I am telling you guys this. The level of joy and the level of accomplishment and the level of fulfillment that comes from knowing that, like I like to put it, you play a little part in somebody's story is it's mind blowing. You know what I mean? Like, it's so mind blowing. You know, I'm wearing a hat. It says "Dad." This was a gift from my son, for this past Father's Day a couple of months ago. But I look at the way this kid lights up when he says, Dad, can you do this for me? And I do it. And just even seeing that, like the fact that I get to play a little part in his story, you know, it warms my heart up so much, because the thing that I think is very uh like not demanding from me, for him, is his whole world. You know what I mean? You can also look at this in whatever spheres and circles that it is that you're serving in, the thing that you do as a service, or the thing that you do so effortlessly for other people, for them is so significant, right? So for you, yes, it might look like you're playing a little part in their story, but for them, it might be a significant contribution. And the level of fulfillment that comes from that is unmatched. I'm sorry. Like, there's no amount of money you'll make that, and don't get me wrong, like, we're all trying to get this bread, we're all trying to make this money, but I will beat my chest and tell you that there's no amount of money you'll make that can equal and that can be better than the feeling you get from impacting people's lives. The feeling you get from people being able to walk up to you and say, "Bro, thank you. I watched your podcast. I watched this episode with da 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 da, and it made me think about this." Bro, what? Do you know how exciting that is? Right? So my encouragement, my sort of it's not advice, it's just admonishment, or what is it called? Is to you is find a place to serve. And when I say that, I'm not just talking about in like a religious setting. You can serve in church as well, which is important. But I'm talking about in your community, find a place to serve. In your workplace, look at your work as a service. I'm serving these people. Yes, they're paying you, but look at it as a service. Look at it as I am meeting a need. Look at it that way. In whatever it is that you're doing, have a mind of I'm serving people. I'm playing a little part in their story. It's one of the most important mindset shifts that I've had in years, and it's the very reason why we're doing this podcast, and we're doing all of this, because, like, what better way to impact people? What I mean? What better way to play a little part in other people's stories than by amplifying the stories of other people and sharing, different things about our story as well, right? So find a way to serve in whatever capacity it is. But yeah, serving other people is one of the greatest sources and greatest avenues of fulfillment you'll ever find in life. All right, let's get to the last one, lesson number 10. Lesson number 10, which is the last one and the most important thing that I've learned in the last, I guess, couple of years, is this: God is my source and everything else is a channel. You know what I mean? There used to be a time when I would admit I was focused on, I just need to get that job. I just need to get into tech. I just need to do this. I need to do that. I need to make this investment. If you take a step back and you realize that all of that could be gone just like that. And the real thing that stays with you is your relationship with God. Hey man, it's different over here. You know what I mean? Like, it's different, So I started to look at things that way, in the sense that my job is not my source. Yes, I love my job. I'm grateful for my paycheck. Yes, I love my business. I'm grateful for profit, but that's not my source, because any of that could be gone. But what stays with us is who God is and our relationship with Him, right? So I want to leave things on that note with you. Realize and settle in the fact that God is your source and everything else is a channel. So yes, human beings might call it a source of income, but it's not really a source of income. It's just a channel of income, because God is the source anyways. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to put that out there. Yeah, God is the source. Everything else is a channel. And when you look at life that way, you you realize that you're in His hands and that everything's going to be all right. So this is I guess, a point to encourage someone who's going through something. You know what I mean? Like, God is your source and everything else is a channel. Channels might change, the source never does, right? So, anyways, those were the 10 lessons I wish I had learned sooner. Maybe you heard one today that feels like it was written just for you. I really hope that you don't just nod along and just listen and, just, you know, I really hope that you take these to heart, at least one of them, and that you implement them in your story and in whatever it is that you're doing. One thing I've realized is that life isn't necessarily about finding a perfect moment to change. It's often about stacking consistently choices and wisdom and the right actions and the right principles. It's often in stacking those that we end up building a successful life. It's not just about a one-time decision or a one-time change. It's a series of ongoing and continuous changes. And these lessons, I hope that I shared with you today, I hope will lead to such changes for you. If this episode spoke to you, I would love for you to share it with a friend as a reminder, as whatever it is. Just share it with somebody. Just let them know, hey, I listened to this, it really helped me, or it got me thinking about some stuff, and I thought about you, and I wanted to share this with you. Share it with somebody you love. How about share it with somebody now? Yeah, but it's been fun hanging with you all. Please like, comment, subscribe. If there are lessons that you wish you had learned and they don't sort of tie to any of the ones that I sort of run through, you want to add something, put it in the comments. I would really love to hear from you. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and support what we're doing here. It's the free way you get to support what we're building here. Yeah. If I was gonna say if I made you money, put yes in the chat. I'm joking. Till next time. All right. God bless. See ya.